that is a game I've been very much anticipating. It's called Astro Bot, and it's Team Asobi's full-fledged, big release version of the game that has sort of been kind of a pack-in, kind of a sideshow, even a VR title, but it hasn't really had its own major mainstream version until now, which is why it's just called Astro Bot without a subtitle. And Marcus, what do you think? What have you thought about it so far with your time with it?
I wonder, and this might be unique to us and people that make playing games their livelihood, where have you ever played a game that is so much fun that it makes you question if you've ever had fun with other games before? In the way, like, I feel like when you play so many games all the time, obviously, like, your tolerance for fun hits a point where, like, even something that is just fine, you're like, oh, this is okay. Like, you're getting like a base level of enjoyment, and then you start to forget what it's like to feel true joy because it's like it's all like fine and okay. And then you play something like this where you're like, oh my God, like, I think like this is so fun. Like, have I had real fun with the other games? Like, I don't know if that makes sense
so much. This happened to me just last year with Mario Wonder. It's the same experience where it's like, oh, I forgot. It's like biting into the ratatouille, you know? It's like, oh, I realize everything that means something to me, and a single tear ran down the side of my cheek.
You're like, I know I've enjoyed other games, but like something like this one goes, oh, right. This is when a game is like super fun. This is what it feels like. That is Astro Bot for me. Like, I love this game so much. And I knew I would, because I really liked Playroom. Like, I thought that was like such a great pack-in. One of the best pack-ins ever. We don't really get pack-ins anymore. And just the idea of like, oh, we're going to make like a bigger version of that. I was like, hell yeah, that'll probably be great. And then you play this and you're like, oh my God, yeah, this is like, it's weird because it's like on the surface, you know, the people knocking this game is like, oh, it's not really doing anything that, you know, Mario games don't do. And it's like, I mean, I guess no, but like that doesn't matter because it's executing so many things just at such a high level while packing in so much charm, like more charm. I would almost say more charm than this game knows what to do with, but it actually knows exactly what to do with all of it. And it does, like the way it utilizes nostalgia and celebrates the PlayStation brand without feeling like a cynical like ad for Sony.
Right. It's a tough line to walk, I think.
And I think a lot of it is that they don't put in your face, hey, this is Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank. Like everything is just like a wink and a nod. Like very much like if you know, you know, but we're not going to spell it out for you. Like all the like cameo robots just have that little vague sort of like name and description that references something about them or the game where you go, I see what they did there. And then that's like it. And I think that's like the perfect level outside of the robots being so cute. You just want to hug all of them, right? And then you want to hug the regular ones, but then when you see one that's like, oh man, that robot looks like Dante from Devil May Cry. That's awesome. I want to hang out with that robot.
It's too bad that they couldn't make every single robot. You know, there's only the special ones that you find in the level.
But I think that's what keeps them special, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
If you did all of them, it would be probably like, okay, I get it, you know. But it's like when you go into a stage, and it's like, okay, 3 of these are like I forget what they actually call the special like mascot cameo robots, but you're like, and then you wonder like, because sometimes they'll like all the robots will be from the same game, so you're like, oh, which franchise do you think they're gonna do? And then sometimes the stage hints at it. We're like, oh, the underground mushroom stage has the Last of Us characters. Of course, that makes sense. There's mushrooms everywhere. I didn't think of that. But then it even gets better when you get to the few stages that are just we are recreating a game from just a PlayStation game,
Ape Escape.
Oh, the Ape Escape one was so good that it reawakened my love of Ape Escape to the point where I bought a copy of Ape Escape on the PlayStation Store.
So it is an ad.
I guess it worked because I was playing that and it was so well done, and I forgot how much I loved Ape Escape back in the day. And I was like, I've never actually beaten Ape Escape because I only borrowed it from a friend. I'm going to buy it right now because I was sad that stage was over.
May I jump in here real quick? I would love to not mention any of the others.
No, I won't.
You want it to be a surprise. Okay.
Yeah, I know the game's out, but I feel like they are such treats and they don't necessarily telegraph them. I had one when I was playing like the first day, and it was just literally my kids ran in because I was squealing with glee. So I would love.
What's wrong with Daddy? He's never expressed joy before.
He said he's never been happy playing a game with him.
Even when you were born, second child, I do not remember seeing these emotions from him. So I would love to keep them surprises for folks
sure.
who played.
And the Ape Escape one is the first one, so it's an early one. So
yeah.
Yes, I am actively angry at this game. I am mad, furious even at Astro Bot, because it is so good and so fun and not in VR. And every moment that I play it, when I'm diving into something or something's exploding around me, or there's a cool thing that shoots over my head, or there's a giant thing that I'm dealing with, or I'm moving through that, or I'm flying my spaceship in this, every single moment I think about how great the first Astro Bot was in VR and how great this moment would be of this game if I was playing it on PSVR 2. And I cannot believe that they didn't include that as a mode. It makes me so mad because it would have been an absolute joy in VR and a PSVR crown jewel. It would have been like a reason to buy the headset, this game. And the fact that they took a franchise that started as a VR platformer and have a new VR headset that's not doing well in sales, and they could have married those two things together and given PSVR 2 owners a new reason to put on the headset, given people a reason to buy it, had this be a real system seller for that peripheral. It makes me angry. That said, I agree with everything Marcus said. It's a delightful game, and I loved it. I love it. Christian, what you've been playing Astro Bot as well?
We did a prompt for patrons not too long ago about when has a new game come out that's become one of your top games of all time. You know, how recently has that happened, that a game has come out that has cracked into its your all-time list? Astro Bot is in my all-time list. I will be shocked if it is not my favorite game of the year when we do our list. Spoilers, sorry listeners, for our favorites of 2024. It is a phenomenal game, top to bottom, in an exquisite experience played with the DualSense controller. Graphically, it's beautiful. The metallic, ray traced, or however they're doing it, reflections on surfaces, the I don't know the term, sorry audio engineers, but when you dive into water, the way the music, like you're underwater and then you plop out and it changes back again. There are moments of kind of spherical water that you kind of splash into and come out of, and their use of the power-ups, they never overstay their welcome. A lot of levels you get, picture it like a Tanuki tail or whatever, or the cat suit in Mario or something like that. But you have them, it seems like, for maybe 3 levels. And then you're like, this is incredible. I'm having so much fun with this. And then they introduce a new one. And you're like, this is even better. I'm having so much more fun.
So many ideas per minute in this game.
Yes. And they're all, it really, this is a totally different genre, but it really reminds me of Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare forever ago, where Infinity Ward was like, yeah, it's a first-person shooter, but we're going to throw all these types of gameplay styles at you, all these new mechanics, all these new things you're going to be doing, and putting them in this one cohesive package. And that's what Astro Bot feels like it does for this 3D platformer. It takes all of these fresh ideas and lets them be fun just long enough before they overstay their welcome and you move on to something else. But the way if you have, your sound on your controller, which hopefully you do, the way you get like not only the haptic vibration from the controller, but like the ting, 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 ting of your steps coming from your controller instead of
So
from
good.
it's so, everything about this game is exquisite. And this is what I was hinting at earlier about Concord and my love of established genres, but allowing them to be refined in a way that is, dare I say, that thing currently perfected. This type of game has been made many a time. You could look at this trailer and go, oh, this is just a Lucky's Tale. It's just the same thing. First a VR game,
Yeah.
now not. It's just Lucky's Tale. And Lucky's Tale is fine. It's a perfectly serviceable platformer. But Astro Bot, what this team has done with this game, it is exquisite. Sound direction, as Marcus mentioned, the cameos are incredible. And they're also, I think, what helps make it not seem like a PlayStation ad is the licensing that they were able to pull off from this of, as you mentioned, Dante or Ken or these characters that like, yeah, they're, I guess, PlayStation characters. What a coup for PlayStation to be like, no. Leon, Ryu, all these characters that aren't our games, these are PlayStation characters.
But they also represent like, because there were times where like some of those characters were, even if they didn't own them, they were only on PlayStation Hard. Like Devil May Cry
Yes.
was a PlayStation
Yes.
exclusive franchise for during the PS2. So it's like a double layer of like this character evokes a specific era of our history of like
And I think pulls it back as well. I think
Yeah.
like also, like says like also still today, like the best place to play. It's
and then
brilliant.
just the weird deep cuts too of like how deep the cameos go. Like I'm still fine, but there's somewhere like, wow, I cannot believe they thought of this character. Like,
well,
this is so cool. Or-
This is something that Nintendo has done a lot and to great success. And that is mining their history and sort of reveling in the culture of their company and corporate brand.
Mhm.
And, Sony has made some attempt at that, right? There was
All-Stars.
Sony All-Stars. Yeah. That
yeah.
Smash Brothers that they tried to do. But this is like the most, not just competent, but sort of lovingly made and effective nostalgia hit that is also embedded inside a truly excellent experience, right? It's not just a nostalgia hit. And that's what Nintendo is so good at, right? Smash Brothers is nostalgia, but it's also this wholly effective thing that nobody else does as well as they do, And
Yeah.
same thing with Mario Kart, those kinds of things. It's like they're really good at embedding the nostalgia inside a spectacularly well-made experience. And now Sony has that. And I don't think they have ever before.
I think they're old enough now to get to that level where, what is it, their 30th anniversary this year? And like they're old enough now to where they have earned that nostalgia. Like I felt like when PlayStation All-Stars came out, even though Sony was old, it was like, okay, they're on the PS3. That's a long time, but still like it felt like that game. I remember distinctly playing it, and outside of just not being a less good Smash game, it just felt dry. It lacked that like charm and like it was weird. I was just like, why doesn't this feel as charming and like a celebration the way that Smash Brothers does? Like this feels like, hey, we have a bunch of characters, we can make one of these, and it just didn't hit the same way. There was something corporate about it that I didn't like. Where this game does not have that. Yeah. And I think maybe it's just like the company's old enough now that like people that are young enough where PlayStation 1 was their first console, or like grown adults with mortgages, they can look back and be like, wow. But I also think it was just executed better. And I think keeping the cameos relatively faceless, because again, it's not like the characters themselves are in there. It's just a bunch of the Astro Bots cosplaying as them.
Right.
And that just makes it more charming. And again, it's like it's less of an ad because it's not we got Dante straight up and he's just sitting there chilling. It's like, no, it's a little robot with a little red coat and a white hair, and he's throwing a sword around. And you're like, that's funny.
It's like the robots themselves are excited about it.
Yeah, like they're celebrating it. So you're like, yeah, I'm excited too. I want to hang with the robot that's really into Persona. And also going the gameplay, like there was an anecdote that was shared. I want to say it was Jason Schreier, talking about how the game was made, because Team Asobi is a small team, like 60-ish people, and talking about how apparently they would play the game every couple of weeks, which a lot of developers actually don't do, either because of just lack of time or whatever. And this game, if that's true, it feels like that, because it feels like every inch of this game, like every little interaction, feels so good and it's just designed to make you smile. Whether it's like the the pitter patter of walking around and you just feel it in the controller, or like yanking something out of the ground feels good. All the little collectibles, like those frog gloves, I love those things so much because it feels so good to punch. And when you yank the worms out the ground, you're like, oh, that feels so good. It feels like every little thing, they're like, how can we make this feel as good as possible? Like, not just that we put it in there, but how does it feel good? And this game is like one of the, I'm trying to be like, is this like the best feeling game I've ever played? Where like the controller, like sometimes haptic stuff can be annoying with some games. We're like, oh, this trigger is hard to pull because it's like not reacting right, or I don't want to hear the speaker sound, I'm going to turn that off. But this game turns the controller, like, it almost makes it feel like a toy.
Yes.
Because of how many little things it does. And you're just kind of like, you almost, instead of just being like, oh, that's annoying, you just kind of giggle like, hee hee hee, oh, it's cool that the controller did this little thing.
The world, right? Like, I don't think I'd want every game to do this. I wouldn't want The Last of Us 3 or Ghost of Tsushima 2 to be like, whoosh, whoosh, out of my controller and like walking through grass, swishy, swish, swishy. It's
and
like,
some try to do it.
It doesn't fit, but with the aesthetic of Astro Bot, I think it totally fits. And also, I think this game walks that knife's edge of being easy enough to just play. You don't need to catch every little bot to advance the story, but also it has some devilishly difficult.
There are some
stages,
difficulty spikes. Yes, for sure.
But you're also playing them just because you want to. That
Right.
Going back to our Concord talk, or Marcus, what you're saying about live service games, this game is, here's going to be a really, really hard level to do. Like a Mario Sunshine secret course. Really, really hard level to go to. I could keep beating my head against this. What do I get when I complete it? One bot. It's just to do it. It's just to do it. There's no battle pass. There's no, I got to do this to get the XP to unlock the next thing. Love it. Love it.
Yeah, I just want to underscore a lot of the stuff you guys have already brought up, because it really is just a beautifully designed game. And Marcus is so right about how everything feels good, and it is a showcase for the DualSense controller in a way that a few other games have been, but I think this takes it to a whole other level. I'll just point out one thing that happens right at the very beginning of the game. You find, or the Astro Bot crash lands or something and is like sparking and buzzing, and the controller feels like it's sparking and buzzing. And I've never experienced such a subtle but specific haptic sensation as that, like, little spark that's shooting through the controller. It's a wild thing. And that's just one example of many, many things that they innovate with how it feels on the controller. It's so neat. The world is cartoonish and vibrant, but also very highly detailed. There'll be moments of just gorgeous, like just tree leaves that'll light up as I walk across them, or the world is just full of stuff. You're constantly moving through bits of things, or carving a path through something. Or
this game loves particle effects.
And
it knows that it does it well, so it's like, let's do it all the time. And you're like, yes, please. I want to walk through this pile of like cubes or sprinkles, because it just looks and feels great.
All of it's just gobs around me, and your
Apples
little guy
falling.
is just pushing stuff away, or you're riding a water slide, or all. It's like it's so much fun, and I again wish it was in VR, because it would be even better. But it really is the closest thing I can think of to compare it to just last year is Mario Wonder, where it really does just feel like what it wants is for you to have the best possible time all the time. And it's willing to just throw tons of ideas at you. Like, hey, wouldn't this be fun? Wouldn't that be fun? The stuff just seems to be in the game because, boy, that would be a fun thing to do, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be just a delight to do that? And then you're like, yes, it is.
Whole other games could be built on those. Sometimes I'm like, this could be a 20-hour game by itself. I'll be very vague, but there were moments in a movie where I felt that way as well. Watching Alien Romulus feels so full of ideas. I'm like, oh, this is clearly the premise for this entire movie. And then they move on from it. They introduce something else. And that's what Astro Bot does. I'm like, oh, this mechanic here. Now I see how this other team can make this whole game. And then Astro Bot's like, yeah, and we're done with it. Because we got 400 more great ideas to go. Buckle up. Yeah. It's great.
It's the only game that has challenged, because Balatro has been my game of the year with a bullet so far. It is the only game that has challenged that. And I haven't even finished it yet.
Coming to Apple Arcade this month.
Dangerous. Yeah. Dangerous. All right, that's Astro Bot.